Hi, Sam with you from Roberts Geospatial. Today I just want to show you some of the new features in ProRaster release version 1.0.04. So firstly on color tables, so I'm going to create an algorithm here for say the world cover classified raster. This is land use data. Now I want to create a color table for this raster so that I can then modify the appearance of the raster in the map. So I'll go into the color table editor, select the user defined color tables, and you can see there's a new button up the top here that says create a new color table for a classified raster. Press that button, give it a name, so I'll call it world cover. Choose the raster source that you want to create it for and the field, and hit OK. And we now have a new color table for world cover. So you can see it's picked up all the colors from the classification table. It's going to be usable against the zero-based index for the classification, and here it's got the labels as well. So hit OK. Delete that algorithm. I'll create a new lookup table algorithm, turn off intensity, come into here, select my world cover, use that new color table for my transformation, and select the color table, and so there we have it. Now what you can then do is go into that color table and edit it. So if we now, let's create a new color table from this selected table. I'm going to call this world cover vegetation. So go and create a new legend, hit OK. Now we can edit this. So let's take out all of the things that we don't want to see. So let's take out moss and lichen, water bodies, snow and ice, bare and sparse, built up. I'll take out cropland, and now we've just got the vegetation. Hit OK. Now select that as our color table and our mapping. And you can see that in the visualization we've taken out all of those codes, and we've just got the ones that we want to visualize, which is the vegetation codes. So that's a new feature for creating new color tables. So the next new feature is in the Tooltip Reporting. So the Tooltip buttons have been replaced with this one drop menu button. So in here you can select no tooltip, just the key data value, the key data information, and there's a new one called all data information, and there's one down here called show geodetic coordinates. So if we go to key data, you can see that it tells you what the key value is in that raster. If you go to key data information, then you get a coordinate as well as more information about what you're actually hovering over. And if we just make another example here, so if I bring in say Google Maps, so you can see that the coordinate that it's giving me in Google Maps is its popular visualization CRS projection, so it's got this funny coordinate which isn't very useful. So you can go in here and say show geodetic coordinates, and now when I move my mouse around, it'll report the latitude and longitude of the coordinate rather than the actual projection of the algorithm. If we go to close that algorithm and bring in, say, some Landsat data. So here we've got Landsat data. So there's 3 Landsat bands. We've got some terrain data underneath. Now if I go to the new all data information mode and drag, you see you get a big tooltip. It's showing you that there are 3 different Landsat bands at that location. There's also the global digital terrain band, and it's also showing you the coordinate. So that's a very verbose mode. let's just go back to key value. Alright, now the next feature I want to show you is the zoom to extents button. So this has been changed to a drop button, and there are a number of new options for zooming. So if I drop this down, you can see that I can zoom to the extents of the algorithm. I can zoom to these different coordinate systems, and I can zoom to any of these rasters, and I also have a zoom manual option. Now the reason that these are all here is because sometimes it's difficult for the algorithm to work out the extents, and that's because of coordinate systems. So let's just demonstrate how that happens. So if I just close this algorithm, or if I just say zoom to algorithm extents on this particular algorithm, you'll see that the view disappears. Now the reason it disappears is because we have data here that uses UTM projected zones, and then for the intensity we've got a latitude longitude global data set, and the algorithm itself is being rendered in UTM zone 54 northern hemisphere. So what happens when it tries to work out the extent of the raster is that it finds this global DEM, and it converts that range into a projected coordinate system, and that fails. So you kind of get infinite extents. So when you display it, you see a blank screen. And it's pretty hard to solve this problem programmatically in all cases. It's quite tricky. So at this stage I've put in some options that you can manually exercise to solve it yourself. So in this case, the easiest thing to do would be to zoom to one of these rasters. And that's my Landsat tile, and so now I see the area that I want to see. Down here you can also hit this zoom manually button, and now you can put in latitude and longitudes of the geodetic coordinates that you want to zoom to. So if I put in, say, 135 to 145 and say -30 to -40, then hit OK, then I'll get that particular zoom. So let's go back to a very simple algorithm. I'll just demonstrate how this can happen. So I've heard Lut Algorithm, and we'll just display this global DEM. So I have a global scale DEM in latitude longitude. Now if I go up to the algorithm and say, okay, well I want to display that for, say, map grid of Australia 2020, so a projected coordinate system. If I hit that, then I lose my view, and that's because it's trying to convert that global latitude longitude coordinate range into a projected range, and it's outside of the bounds of that projection, so it's failed. So you can zoom to the bounds of the projection if it's known, and generally speaking it will have to have an EPSG code for it to know what the bounds are. So now if I hit that zoom option, it zooms to the bounds of that particular coordinate system, and the view comes good, and you can then interact with it. So that's another option. So we have the manual zoom, we have the zoom to coordinate system bounds, and we have zoom to raster source, and all of those things are derived from the algorithm itself. So you'll see the things that are actually in the algorithm. So they're the new features. Just some other notes. There have been a number of bug fixes in this version. Some bug fixes around blending, especially with image layers, so that's important. And also there's some bug fixes around the data color transformation process for color table legends, so that's also important. And that's the new features in ProRaster Essential and ProRaster Premium version 1.0.04.